Hello everyone, my name is Nina Elise. Welcome to my channel. I am a mindset and manifestation coach, and I help people go through big transitions in their lives, whether it is a breakup or a career change or plainly just feeling like they're not happy in their lives, and I help them move through that and manifest their dream lives. So if you are a regular on my channel, you may know me for doing yoga and talking about human design and doing meditations. This is a video that is going to be more focused on human design and more specifically for manifestors in business. So this video is something that is very near and dear to my heart because I am a manifestor myself. So if you are new or not familiar with human design, you can go in the description and you can download a free report from my website. So just to give a quick background, I am a 4/6 emotional manifestor. I'm a quad right on the right angle cross of consciousness 2. So if you have any of those similarities in my chart, you may connect with certain things that I talk about today, but in general, I'm going to talk about being a manifestor in business. This has been one of the top things that people have come to me about, really struggling and saying, how can I fully step into my manifestorness and have my own business as an entrepreneur and thrive? Because there's this idea that generators are here to thrive in this 9-to-5 world, and it's unfair as manifestors because we have to do things our own way, and so we don't fit in, and it becomes this like victim mindset. And so I am here to go through questions that clients have asked me, that people have asked me on social media channels, and kind of expand on that and how we can step into a more empowered way of viewing how we can operate in a business and be successful as we step into ourselves fully as a manifestor and our gifts and our skills, and how we can experiment with that and do it in our own way and be successful. So I'm not entirely sure how long this video is going to last because I have a whole list of notes that I'm going to go through that I really want to touch on based on different questions that people have asked me. So to start off, I'm going to be pretty blunt about human design and how I personally use it and how I have seen people use it over and over and over again, and how we can get caught in this loop, and including myself. So when we first learn about human design, it's number one, a permission slip, because it gives us permission to accept parts of ourselves that we thought were wrong, or we suppressed most of our lives because we were surrounded by generators or other types, or we were deeply conditioned by our environment. So when we find something like human design, it can ultimately become a new identity, a new label, and it can become another box that we put ourselves in. And on top of that, it can also be this pressure that we put on ourselves to say, oh, I haven't been operating like myself, so now I can operate in this new way. And we have this immense pressure to live in alignment with ourselves, when in reality, our entire lives, we have been in another identity. We have habits and we have addictions and we have all these things that we're not even aware of. And so it's not just like this switch that is flipped where we're like, oh, we're just going to start operating fully in my manifestorness and everything's going to be perfect. And then we get caught in this never ending loop of like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Why can't I do this right? It's so hard. I'm a victim because I'm stuck in this job I don't like, or my business is failing. And at the end of the day, these are aspects of your conditioning that are coming up for you to look at and say, how is this limiting me? How can I do things differently? And how can I do them my way that is more in alignment for me? And that is not an overnight fix. For some people, maybe it is. In my personal experience, it has not been at all. It has literally been a 10-year plus journey. And I've been studying human design for about 5 or 6 years now. And so even before I knew about human design, I started deconditioning. I didn't really realize I was doing it. And the more that I learned about my design, it has definitely been a process of me shifting out of that 9-to-5 life, that hustle life of doing what everyone is telling me to do, and to really step into my own sovereignty and say, who am I? Who do I want to be? And learning how to tap into my inner authority and say, this is what feels best for me, and this is the action that I'm going to take, and feeling comfortable enough to do that, to trust myself to do that and make decisions in alignment for me. And that can be very challenging and hard as you decondition because you've been operating in a way for so long. So I really wanted to start this video off with that, is just when you learn about your human design, just relax, take an exhale, and just know that you don't have to be perfect. Like, this deconditioning journey is a journey. I don't want to say it's not for the faint heart, but it's definitely something that you go into intentionally, because as you go through this deconditioning journey, there's a constant series of deaths as you are becoming aware of who you have been, what your conditioning is, the parts of yourselves that you have been denying and suppressing your entire life. And that is a whole grieving process in itself. And so this journey of deconditioning requires so much grace and so much compassion for ourselves. And so I really just want to preface this whole video with that as like, yes, let's just take a slow down and just relax into this and know that you are perfect and exactly where you need to be. You are learning about your human design, not so that you can beat yourself up for not being fully in alignment with your chart or being where you want to be. This is the perfect way or perfect place to be, because you are learning about yourself. And then this is your job and your responsibility to say, what can I do differently that is more in alignment for me? And yes, you can use human design to help you navigate that as like a blueprint to say, these are my skills, these are my strengths. Okay, let's play around with this. And it becomes this very beautiful journey of really rediscovering or remembering yourself and getting to be this new identity, this new person outside of what you were taught to be or who you thought you were. And it's incredibly beautiful. So just know that what you are doing right now and understanding your human design and expanding your self-awareness is just absolutely perfection. To go a little bit more deeper into this, when I first learned about my human design, it was like, oh, okay, I'm meant to be an entrepreneur and I don't want to work for somebody else. And so it wasn't this overnight thing where I just quit my job and started a business. It was a 7+ year process. And I'm not saying this is what is going to happen for everyone else. I am a 6 line. So in my 20s, I was operating as a 3rd line. I was very much trial and erroring. I had several businesses before I landed on the business that I'm doing right now, where I'm very passionate about. I have learned how to tap into my authority and say, this is what I want to be doing, and to step into integrity and sovereignty in that, and learning how to trust myself and to know myself and what I truly want. And so this has been years in the making, and this compounding of this personal development work that I've been doing to remove that deconditioning and really get to the core of who I am. And so I really want to share this part of my journey, because I think we can look at people and say, oh, they're so great, and this manifestor did this, so I should be able to do this too. And that's not always the case. It's your unique path. It's very different than anyone else. And it's your responsibility to figure out what that looks like for you. And that may require some trial and erroring in figuring out how that path looks like for you. So my experience is I was a yoga teacher, and then I was a personal trainer. Then I started selling products on Amazon. Then I got into crypto. And then I was selling personal training courses online. And then I started my web development business that I did for a few years. And then I got into human design. And so there are aspects of your chart where you can look back on this. I have the 35-36. I'm very curious. I always want to be learning. I have a hunger for that. And my emotional wave takes me through those things. And I look back on that, and they seemed like failures because I wasn't making a lot of money, and I was still working, doing consulting and contracting work. And I still do to this day to support me while I was trying to build those businesses. And so what made the suffering that much more worse was me being hard on myself and saying, I'm a manifestor, I should be doing this, and I can't, and I feel suppressed, and I feel trapped in this job. And in reality, it's actually this mindset shift of saying, wow, I'm really grateful that I can have this job right now. What are small steps that I can take every single day in order to find what business works best for me and do something that I actually love, where I have autonomy in my time and I have freedom in my life and my day and my job and my money. And so it's more of having gratitude for the income that you have coming now, whatever that may be, and know that it's temporary, that eventually you will switch over to something else, but giving yourself that grace and that compassion and patience as you are learning that within yourself is going to be so helpful to remove so much suffering within your actual journey of really stepping into that aligned manifestor energy. And where I'm at now in my business, this is not my full-time job. I am still building up my business, and I really want to share that and be transparent about it because, I was hard on myself for so long where I was like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to do this for so many years. And then I just got caught in the self-deprecating loop of like, why am I not there yet? However, when you have a different perspective or mindset around where you are at and where you are going, and you're very clear and intentional about what you want and where you are going, then what you are doing every single day is going to be in so much alignment with where you want to go. So if you don't know exactly where you want to go, that's totally fine, but you know how you want to feel. As a manifestor, we want freedom. We want peace. We want to be able to go off and do whatever the heck we want when we want. We want to be able to rest when we want. So that can be your end goal. And so that is where you learn how to do things in your every single day and prioritize those things for yourself. The reason you don't have those things or in the way that you want them is because you are not prioritizing them in this moment, even if it's just like 1 to 5 minutes a day. And so that's so key as a manifestor is we've been so conditioned as generators to respond and to give and to be someone that we're not, so that we still get caught in this like, oh, I'm a victim and I can't do this. Well, what can you give yourself in this moment? And I'm telling you guys, I hired a coach this year and she has helped me so much. She's a projector and she's so helped me with this, these energetics and these subtle mindset shifts where it's like, how can I reframe where I'm at in this moment and know that every single day where I show up for myself and I prioritize these steps, those are compounding. We just can't see it in the moment. So this is where you learn how to build trust in yourself by showing up for yourself every day. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I can't be consistent as a manifestor. It's, yeah, you can be consistent in the ways that you take care of yourself and the way that you speak to yourself. So I really want to share that because I think as manifestors, we can be really hard on ourselves to be a certain way when in reality, where we're at is perfect. And if we aren't accepting of the moment that we are in, we're going to create this internal resistance. And that is what will keep us in this never-ending loop of feeling stuck of where we're at, not feeling grateful for where we are at, and feeling like we're not doing enough to have that freedom that we crave. So where can you create that for yourself in this moment right now? So that leads me to the next question. How can I honor myself while maintaining my business? So for me personally, I did not have boundaries with my time and the way that I was taking care of myself. And so I hustled and I worked like a generator with my business for the very first part of it. And I still revert back to that sometimes, but this is where you sit down and you get clear on what you want to prioritize, how you want to feel. And again, making sure that you are giving that to yourself every day. I've tried the routines where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do an hour of this and then this. And it was just like, it just felt like there was so much energy that was going into that. I personally set aside my weekends. And if I don't have my weekends, I have at least 2 days during the week where I block off the day and I don't have any meetings scheduled. So I can wake up in the morning, I can be in complete flow. And that might look like just being a slug on the couch and watching TV shows or watching a movie and just doing that all day. Or it could just be like, oh, what does my body need right now in this moment? And just following that, or scheduling a massage, or just resting or reading a book and starting to give yourself that. And that is how you can honor yourself as a manifestor in your business. Because yes, we're gonna have our natural rest cycles, but we have different rest cycles at different points in our lives. So it might be a shorter rest cycle where we've just kind of been super busy during the week and we actually need a really big day of rest. And maybe we've just gone through a really big urge and we're getting ready to enter a really long rest period. So there are different ways that we can approach how we give ourselves this rest in our everyday lives. So we're not just like, oh, I'm doing this and then boom, you're burnt out. because that is something, the manifestor burnout is a real thing. And I'm sure everyone watching this understands and knows how that feels in their body. I most certainly do, because this is something that still comes up for me, even though I've been studying human design for 5 or 6 years. It's like that deep conditioning. And it's just coming up for us to be aware of, to love on and say, okay, let's take a pause, and how can I do something different? How can I honor myself in this moment? If you feel like you have to do it all in your business, this is where you can really rely on support from other people. And a question that I got was, well, how can I rely on other people if I'm starting my business and I don't have the funds to have someone help me? Well, I'm here to tell you that there are so many options. Like, you can hire a VA for like $5 or $10 an hour. You can go on Fiverr and hire someone to help you. You can go on Upwork. There are people who do things very cheaply. I personally do not have full-time employees in my business. I typically hire people to do things that I'm not an expert on or I want to get better at. And so I have them build it out for me, and then I can see how they do it. So it really depends on what type of business that you want to have. Yes, you can hire somebody, but it's, what does your business need? What do you need? And so by prioritizing your needs first and then saying, okay, what is the relationship that I want to have with my business? Do I want to have employees? Do I want to do it all? And so I think when you're really clear about what you really need and the support that you need, and then communicating that and taking action on it, then you can start to have more balance within your business. Just as an example, I hired a consultant last year to build out my funnels on a new platform. And then when I was ready to switch over to a different platform this year, I hired someone else on Fiverr to do it super cheap. And I have like all these audios that I create. I hired someone on Upwork to create specific music for me for those meditations. Like, there are things that I just cannot do, and you can do them at lower price points. I personally manage my day-to-day stuff. I don't have a VA right now. That is something that I will eventually be implementing, but it really is just prioritizing the things that you need to do within your business that are absolutely necessary, and doing that and not feeling pressured to get it done all at once, because that's definitely something that I have done in the past. And when you start to become aware of that, it might be easy just to brain dump everything that you need and then begin to organize it in a list and say, okay, like what makes the most sense, or like what needs to be prioritized right now over the next 1, 2, 3 months. So really taking that pressure off of yourself. And then from there, you can look at the list and say, I absolutely do not want to do this, or, oh, I think I can do this. And being able to like kind of organize through that information and figure out what works best for you. However, every single person is different. I am really good at being in chaos and then seeing patterns and organizing everything. I do project management and consulting for nonprofits, and I'm really good at that. And so with my own business, I bring that into my business and I can organize things like that. I know manifestors who just do like absolute brain dumps, and then they just randomly pick whatever feels best for them in the moment. Or if you have a splenic authority, it's like you have that hit and then you just go work on that. And this is something that I actually shared with a client in one of our recent one-on-one sessions, is that when we have our urges with our business, it most likely will not make sense. And I'm saying that because for the last 5 or 6 years, as I've leaned into human design and I started to pay attention to what my urges are and when I get them and what my rest cycles are like, the things that I've gotten urges for, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, what? Like, this makes no sense. And looking back and reflecting back on all my urges, I'm like, oh, I kind of do things backwards. And so the things that I was creating 3-4 years ago, I'm actually using those things in my courses and how I'm showing up on social media and the way that I work with clients. I basically was building systems at the time, building content at the time that is supportive of myself as like future Nina. And so as a manifestor, I find this is actually very common. We're kind of like, we work backwards sometimes. We're before our time, not just for clients or people who are consuming our business or who need our business. We're actually before our own time. We're actually setting our future selves up, which is like so sweet and like so awesome and hilarious when you really think about it. But I want you to just reflect back, take a moment and reflect back on the urges that you've had and the things that you've done where you're like, this doesn't make sense at all, and just say, maybe this is actually something that's going to help me in the future, and it may not make sense and you don't have to know. But this is where you really learn how to cultivate deep trust in your body about the decisions that you are making. Because as manifestors, we've been conditioned to not trust ourselves, to second guess ourselves, to go against our inner authority for most of our lives. So it's going to feel unfamiliar and uncomfortable when we start to listen to that inner authority. And that comes with the thoughts that are going on in our minds that are creating the emotions and are dictating our actions and behaviors that we're taking. So when we can go to that and we can say, what is the conditioning here? What are the belief systems here? And how can I shift and reframe them so that they're more empowering for me as I build out my business and as I'm moving forward? And I think that there's just, again, so much pressure we put on ourselves as manifestors of saying, I have to do this and I do this and this, but then nothing comes of it. And it's like, actually, something has already come from it. You've impacted somebody in a way that you probably aren't even aware of. And that may be something that you are actually going to be using in the future, or this urge that you had may be something that you really needed to learn to implement in something else. So I would look at your urges as not like this waste of time. It could be something like, again, you're doing something, you're following your inner urge, you're executing it, and when you're ready to set it down, you can set it down and be okay with it. And again, this is cultivating deep trust within yourself and saying, this is perfect. These urges are perfect, even if it doesn't make sense in this moment. And I also shared this part with a client as well, is there are urges where they have been so big that I've gotten to the point where I got burnout and I was like, I'm not finished yet. And then I went through a rest cycle, and then I was able to pick up where I left off at in a different way, but even better. So I think there's this pressure to be able to get everything done from the urge that we have, and it has to be fully completed. Well, that's not necessarily the case. Maybe you have an urge and you set it down, and then 2 or 3 years later you come back to it with a different perspective, with different experience, and you're able to expand and complete that urge. So again, it's kind of reframing the urges that you have and what you're actually creating, and knowing that it's so perfect. And because as manifestors we are such visionaries, we have this really deep connection to source, to God, whatever you want to call it, to have these creative urges that come through us. Of course, it's not going to make sense because our mind is like, what is this? It's like constantly trying to figure it out. It's trying to control everything. And that's a reflection of how people have treated us our whole lives. They've tried to control us. So that's the relationship we have with ourselves. And so then that becomes a relationship that we have with our connection to source, or whatever is channeling through us. We want to control it. We want to understand it. And I think that when you really lean into that and look at that, it can feel intimidating. It can feel really scary. Again, just trusting yourself. This video is getting a little bit long, so I'm definitely going to be doing more videos on this. So the next thing that I want to touch on is, again, we are these visionaries who have these creative urges. We have these ideas that come through. How can we not get caught up in the day-to-day nuances or the details of our business? Because that can definitely happen. We can become very zeroed in on aspects of our business where we're like, I have to get this done. And then we step out of that role as a visionary. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It is a moment where we are learning the ins and outs of our businesses. But if we're staying stuck there, that's when we can get caught in these loops and think that we're not moving forward, or we're failing, or we need to hire someone. In reality, it's just taking a step back and saying, what is a priority in this moment? And what can I focus on from a bigger vision? And so when you catch yourself in those moments, it's saying, okay, here's my bigger vision. And then kind of backtracking and saying, okay, what needs to be done in order to do this? And how can I give this to somebody else to do? Or maybe this is something I can do at a later time. And giving yourself that time and that space to not get so caught up in all of the details, the smaller details, because that can be really consuming for your energy as a manifestor when you're really caught in the details. And this is something that I get caught up a lot with my own business. And just because you know how to do something doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it. And so this is something that, again, just doing a brain dump or getting really clear on what it is you want to do with your business and hiring somebody to help you with that, whether it's a temporary person or a full-time person or a VA, and just taking that off your plate so that that isn't consuming your mind of something that you have to do, so you can step back and be that bigger visionary. And what it ultimately comes down to is, what kind of systems do you have in place for yourself? This is systems in terms of how are you waking up every single day, and how are you setting the tone for the day, and what are your priorities for the day? What systems do you have in place that help you stay on track in alignment with your vision or your goal that you have? What system works for you? Because you can go and explore and see all the other systems that everyone else is doing, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. I encourage you to try it. I also encourage you to tap into your inner authority and try something different that feels right for you, because it's going to look different for every single person, and your system is going to be different than my system. So again, this is a huge part of the experimentation process of like what actually works for you. Another part of like systems is, do you have funnel set up? Do you have platform set up? How are you actually managing the influx of people coming into your inbox or your social media? How are you managing that? Do you have healthy boundaries with that? Are you chunking off parts of the day, or are you like constantly giving your energy to it throughout the day, to the point where now you don't have energy to work on the bigger vision things? And so a lot of times it's just taking a step back and saying, where are my systems that are draining me, that are taking so much time up, and how can I chunk this and maybe say, one time a day, I'm going to answer emails or answer social media, or 1 hour every single day, I'm going to work on my email automation or building out my funnel. So it really is getting very clear about everything you're doing right now, looking at it from a very neutral position and not having shame about it or saying there's something wrong with you, and just saying, this is where I'm at right now. This feels heavy. This feels draining. I don't want to do this. And then looking at that and saying, how can I do things differently? And I want to say, like, ChatGPT has been hands down, like, it's my VA. It's my copywriter. It helps me write email automations, like, in my own brand voice. Like, I tweak them on my own, but it does the bulk of like bringing everything together. So really understanding and knowing how to use ChatGPT in a way that is so helpful for your business is going to take so much time and energy off your plate. So what you can do is actually do that brain dump and then ask ChatGPT what systems can be fixed in alignment so you have more freedom or peace or whatever it is that your end goal is, and have it define your systems or give you options for different systems that you can put in place so that you can have more of that freedom within your life and your business. So I'm going to stop right here because this video is pretty long and I have so much more that I want to say, but I will create more videos to answer some of the questions that people have asked me, and also to collect more questions in the comments. So if there are things that you really connected with or didn't connect with in this video, or if you have additional questions about being a manifestor in business, feel free to comment them below, because it not only helps me personally, because it allows me to reflect on things that I may not be aware of, but it also helps other manifestors in business as they are learning and navigating and growing on their own journeys as well. So this is something that we can all just help each other on and say, this is what I'm experimenting with. This is what has worked for me. And at the end of the day, you are the ultimate decider of what feels best for you. And it is so beautiful that you have that freedom to do that. And so this is just part of the journey of really learning how to understand that and trusting ourselves as we figure out what works for us on our own individualized journeys, because our paths are not like anyone else's. And especially if you have a lot of third lines or sixth lines in your chart, you're going to be doing a lot of trial and erroring, and that's very normal. You are not alone. So to kind of just summarize everything that I've really touched on in this video is that, yes, you are a manifestor in business. Yes, where you are at is perfect. Yes, you are going to quote unquote fail. Yes, it's perfect. Yes, the urges that you have are perfect and they are compounding, and you may just not be able to see it just yet. And all of this to say is, have so much grace and compassion for yourself in this journey. You can take a step back. You can pause anytime you want. Like, the only rules that are set for you are the ones that you are either allowing others to dictate for you or the ones that you give yourself. And you get to choose what that is. And that can feel weird or awkward, or we may not know how to do that at first. But again, it's part of that journey of unlearning and then setting our new rules and how we actually want to live our lives. And that is sovereignty, that is freedom, that is peace. So when you really learn how to say, okay, what do I want? And then take steps to actually put that in place and realize we really can create our own rules. If you don't want to respond to a text message for frickin' 10 days, don't. Communicate those boundaries with people. What are boundaries that you want? Where are you feeling exhausted, and where do you have a soft boundary that can be hardened a little bit more so that it's giving you more peace and freedom? Because when you are in alignment, the people around you will feel that. They will feel your impact even stronger. And it is such a beautiful responsibility that we have as manifestors to step into our sovereignty, because we are deeply impacting people. People are watching us, and that's not in a negative way, but we are impacting them so that they too can step into their own sovereignty and say, oh, it's okay to live a life that's in alignment for me, because you are giving them permission when you give yourself permission. Okay, end rant. I am for real done with this video. If you are a manifestor in business and you resonated with this, or you have additional questions, put them down in the comments below. If you are looking for more one-on-one guidance as you are building your business as a manifestor, I do one-on-one coaching, and that includes mindset, manifestation, emotional regulation, and your own deconditioning journey. If you are building systems out on the back end, I also help you walk through that if you are setting up a website or things like that. So just know that I am here for you. I'm a manifestor in business. I am learning and I'm growing with you, and I'm here to help you in the ways that I have been able to learn and grow so that you can too, because I just want to see all my manifestors succeed and grow and thrive in this world and have so much freedom and peace and all the things that they want and that they deserve. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.